Kid and Play were fun. It's right there in the name.
Kid and Play got soul power. We get funky.
They did steps when rappers didn't even want to dance.
1, 2, the 2, the 1. We're gonna make sure you're having fun.
We love how they fit together.
Yes, yes, y'all. Minus those swings. We can still have a
Showmanship and energy.
And you put your arms in the air because you feel the music.
Did they kid and did they play? Yes.
C-O-A-Y, just here to say hi. Asking you, mayor, tell you about the day I picked up a microphone.
They have this movie, they have this look,
Because the kid's much more than hair and a
they
smile.
have a dance.
We were up, 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 and down. Whoa, what happened?
We're corny and we're old and y'all ain't hard enough.
Everything was ending. Business ended, the marriage ended.
Everything that I thought that would keep me happy wasn't doing that.
I was kind of spiraling on my own.
When you start to get irresponsible, you wonder what else is going on.
For the first time since we've been friends, we weren't there for each other.
Unparalleled, untold, unsung. The story of Kid and Play.
Kid and Play was about the party. You know what I mean?
I bet you ladies wanna see a P-L-A-Y-N-K-I-D. And not like the rest. Our style is deaf, and we present ourselves as the very best.
The neck knows when you hear a Kid and Play song. Your neck starts going like that, and you go, yeah, that's Kid and Play.
I can't think of a Kid and Play song that's not a jam.
I think it's time to make the floor burn. What I'm saying is, it's your turn to do things you've always wanted to. Here's the jam from Kid and Play to you.
Through the early 1990s, Christopher Kid Reed and Christopher Play Martin became hip-hop's reigning odd couple with catchy songs and even catchier dance moves.
They personified an era in hip-hop that just doesn't exist anymore.
It's Kid and Play, devising a scheme. Yo, Herbie, show 'em what we mean. Confused by the words we're saying? We're not serious, we're only Kid and Playing.
Hair, 2 different skin tones, great original dance styles. It just looked hot.
Kid and Play, the perfect team. Now it's time to let off some steam. Don't be bashful now, don't be shy. This ain't no time for you to wonder why.
And along with their hits, Kid and Play made their mark in fashion, on TV, and in movies.
House Party changed the world, the Kid and Play look changed the world, and their style changed the world.
This is fun, rock the party type thing, you know, and they symbolized it beautifully.
The fact is, Black Life is more like Kid and Play than NWA. And that's what Kid and Play do. They make people happy.
But Kid and Play's reputation for fun and good times would ultimately doom their career, as both men endured real-life dramas that belied the festive spirit of their music.
They weren't hard, they weren't gangsta. So at some point, it became that they weren't authentic.
It was becoming tormenting because I don't have that fire in me. I'm not feeling it. I'm not the same person anymore. And now I don't want to do it anymore.
There's starting to be a pattern of every other party. You know, my boys getting lit.
My most serious wounds are almost always self-inflicted. You know, you look in the mirror and you're just like, how could somebody so smart be so stupid?
The duo who became Kid and Play shared childhoods in New York City that were anything but fun. Christopher Reed spent his early years in the Bronx, reared by a single mom who was separated from his father.
Jamaican father, Irish mother. My mother's parents were born in Ireland. You know, when she took up with my father, it was too much for them to take, apparently. I mean, they literally kicked her out the house. She was a social worker, as was my father. And it was just kind of me and her. And I would see my dad like on the weekends and stuff like that.
Then one day, when Christopher was 9 and riding in the car with his mother, tragedy struck.
We were driving on Meshulah Parkway in the Bronx. And she hit like one of those light poles, and then we got flipped into the oncoming traffic from the other side and got hit there too. And my mother and her girlfriend died in that car accident. Just imagine, like, the world as you know it is changed forever.
With his mother gone, Chris moved to Staten Island to live with his father and got another shock.
Staten Island was probably the most racist place on God's green earth. I mean, we got chased every day. These white dudes chased us every day. Couldn't do nothing. Chase you from school, chase you to school. Fishing at the pond, chase you from the pond. And then my dad got the idea, let's move to Queens. And we moved into a black neighborhood. You know, thanks. No more running for a while.
Settling into the neighborhood of East Elmhurst in Queens, Christopher became entranced by the sounds of local hip-hop.
We get tapes of, you know, Grandmaster Flash and Raheem and the Funky Four, and you know, it's just like the George Washington of this thing, you know what I mean? Like, I hung on every word.
By his teenage years, Christopher was performing his own rhymes and calling himself Kid Cool Out, even if he didn't look the part.
I would always notice this guy across Astoria Boulevard walking with a lab coat. It looked like a scientific lab coat as far as I was concerned. Glasses, afro.
I had like this huge afro, and I had these big, thick glasses and stuff like that. I was like total Big Bang Theory, dude.
That afro and little pale skinny dude with the Coke bottle glasses, like, you know, it's almost like a cartoon.
I was fly with mine. I was a fly geek.
He was. That's a good way to put it.
I was a fly ass
But
geek.
he stood out. He stood out. Real talk.
I had a job, you know, I had a little jobby job.
That's what made him stand out.
Yeah.
Growing up a few blocks away in East Elmhurst, Christopher Martin was heading in a different direction. He was the oldest of 4 kids, whose mother, Del Regina, worked as a secretary, and whose father, Willie C., was a street hustler, who ultimately went to prison for bank robbery.
When he was out, and he was doing his thing, but then when it was time for him to do stinches, as we call it, I couldn't play or be with my friends on the weekends. I had to go visit my father in prison. So it was a very part of the fabric of my life.
He's had 2 nicknames. One was Scalp and the other Skull. And you get a picture of him and you definitely see why.
When anybody saw me, I was a little Skull, a little Scalp. And people knew him. But I saw the guys that I thought were successful in the streets. You know, hustling, gambling, selling drugs. Back then, pocketbook snatching was very popular.
It was pretty well known that he was dabbling into a lot of different things, snatching coats.
I mean, he was a stick-up kid. You know, he owned guns, you know, which is, you know, that's like...
This is where I was doing a lot of urban, what do you call it?
Planning? I don't know.
What do you call it? Experimentation.
Really?
But,
is that what you call robbing people? Urban experimentation. I like that.
I was experimenting with other people's lives.
You experiment with other people's money and jewelry and possessions.
I was very serious about being the best stick-up kid I can be, the best hustler and stuff I can be. I was doing it and then getting a name for it.
But between hustles, Chris taught himself drums and guitar and developed a passion for hip-hop.
Breakdancing thing, did that really good, but that wasn't really me. But when it got time to the microphone, that's where I was comfortable, and seeing that it was getting the attention of the ladies, which was, you know, basically my inspiration for most anything. It's like, okay, I didn't have to worry about going to jail doing this.
By age 18, Chris had joined the Super Lovers, a crew that included a friend and future manager named Herbie Lovebug Azor. By that time, Chris Reed was part of another crew called the Turnout Brothers. One night at a party in Queens, the two young rappers came head to head.
It was jumping, banging, went in, music is hot, you know, MCs were doing their thing.
Play said he heard this voice, this deep voice coming from the other side of the room. And everybody wanted to know, who was that?
And he gets up there and look at this geek, this geekiest geek of geekdom is rapping.
The voice did not match the grill.
And I'm like, whoa, if I thought his way of dressing was an interesting combination, check out the audio now. I'm like, okay, if I can get some of that of him and I can put it with my swagger, I can be unstoppable, you know what I'm saying?
And Kid and Play were about to be all that.
It was literally like the perfect storm.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, that's right. We're Sarah Rising the Square.
Well, right now we're in East Elmhurst, Queens, a place that is very, very cold, and a very important place to how we came up. And so Kim and our mutual friend Romeo, Jerome Doss, would be here playing basketball. And when it was time for my shift to take over to meet up with Rome for the evening activities, I'd come and meet them down here.
Yeah, they were gonna chase girls. I wouldn't get no girls. I wouldn't get no girls back then. So you are free to leave, kid.
This particular spot is a very defining moment in our, but I'd like to say my journey as far as hip hop is concerned. This is the first place I actually heard you rap, spit game. And I said, that boy needs help.
After meeting at a neighborhood party, Christopher Reed and Christopher Martin soon became each other's biggest fans.
We'd get on the phone and he'd like, yo, I got some bacon here. And I go, yo, I got some eggs. And more than likely we would come to each other's house. There'd be times where we're there and Jeopardy is on. And this guy's knocking these answers like out the park. And I'm like looking at him, side-eyeing him like, who the heck is this I'm hanging out with?
This dude always had fresh waves. His jean game was immaculate. Always had the cool mock necks and the 69s on. I'm just like, wow, this guy's pretty effing cool, man. I think I want to be this dude's friend, man. You know what I'm saying? Because my swag was like -50.
He came at a good time in my life where I realized I was kind of like going nowhere fast. Not really conscious of it, but had a sense that, you know, is this all it is, standing on the corner? So we both had something that the other one didn't have.
Calling themselves Fresh Force, the duo figured they were on their way after auditioning their music for a DJ named Lenny Brown, who ran a production company with his partner, Rich Ahi.
We both went over to our kid's house, and we sat in the living room, and they got up and they performed in front of us, just me and Rich. And Rich and I looked at each other, and we were like, whoa, this is interesting.
Lenny was actually like one of the weekend DJs at WBLS.
So not only can he produce the record, he has a very good position for the record to get almost guaranteed to be played if it's good.
They didn't have any good songs early on, so, you know, we were biting other people's records.
We did answer records like Run DMC had My Adidas. We came out with a record called My Skeezer. And back then, that was the street name for groupies. It was called Skeezers. So then we did another record. Falco had a big record out called Rock Me Amadeus. We did a record called Rock Me.
Bad record.
We weren't doing good records.
But we did get airplay. We got airplay with that record.
It wasn't clicking. You know what I mean? And after a while, I think we could tell that, you know, as much as we liked Lenny and Rich, you know, like something was missing.
Re-enter Herbie Lovebug, who by this time was blowing up as a producer for hip-hop's reigning duo, Salt and Pepper.
Herbie Salt and Pepper paved the way for everybody, so when we heard it, we're ecstatic, because he's still from our hood. That's like family, you know?
He was really driven. He was smart. He learned the business. The rest of us didn't really learn the business. Herbie was like a real force.
We were at a party, And the umpteenth person approached him again. You got anything new? It was Fred Monet of Select Records. Said he just wants something from him sight unseen. You don't even have to hear anything. We're ready to go. Who you got? And Herbie and I were side by side, and he's like, he pointed to me. He's like, them.
Soon after that, Herbie took over as their manager, renamed them Kid and Play, and even found them their own DJ.
We're all from the same neighborhood, and Kid and Play didn't have a DJ. Herbie was like, use Wiz. So they came, got me, the rest is history.
Sure enough, the first single Herbie produced, titled Last Night, became a local hit in the summer of '87.
Friday or Saturday night, you know, wonder what Playboy's doing.
Calls up Play and asked if he'd do me a favor, help me get skeezed. He said, all right, kid, I'ma do this for you, but make sure I get a piece too. He gave me the
So kind of our adventures, going to the club, meeting a couple of girls.
The girls came out ready to attack. Mine was dope, but his was whack. Play looked at me and said, yo, I ain't with that. I'm out of here. He wanted to lose her. We got in the car. He began to abuse her. Broke on her face. Said it was a crime. He said, your head's so bald, I could read your mind.
It was our first record that we really, like, you could tell, like, you know, we started to make some noise with.
And Kid and Play's next single, Do This My Way, took things up another notch.
You've been praying, saying you want more. The sound is hype, and we're sure that you feel real good when you're part of a Kid and Play adventure.
Do This My Way was a game changer for us. DJs loved it, and it was our first video.
Troopers and troopers should know this. Listen close, don't blow this chance to get next to the opposite sex. It means if you ain't down, use the exit, just like Brutus. We always knew this. On the strip, y'all, we can do this my way.
Do It My Way. Perfect use. James Brown sample.
That's the first time people got to see the Kid and Play dance. You know, we looked really, you know, just young and vibrant, and, you know, there was lots of colorful stuff in it. So, you know, people can kind of get a sense of who we were.
Like the kiss of death to my foes, MCs are falling like dominoes. Oppose me, you must be a little crazy. Gonna unleash the sound and the fury.
They understood who they were very early, you know? My Way for Kid and Play is what Reasonable Doubt was for Jay-Z.
That kick step in that video, forget about it. That record, it just changed everything.
By my side, ripping, running, sticking, gunning, the boy's still stunning. Heard, don't obstruct it, where's the trumpet? Give me the beat and I'll pump it my way.
By the late '80s, despite 2 radio hits, Kid and Play still couldn't get a deal to make a full album together. But their third single, Getting Funky, turned out to be the charm.
Getting Funky is a cross between the hip-hop and the R&B, of course. They always kept it dope, and their raps was crazy.
The ingredients for coming correct. We select on the set beats and rhymes that are both in check. Herbie's behind the board code, getting respect. We are Kid and Play in total effect.
That video, which looked like a movie set, it was so immaculate. We shot it in Harlem. It didn't even look real.
Just call me Play, I say. You gotta listen close. If you don't dance to this, then you're comatose. Cause I'm fierce, I pierce your soul. Step back, relax, Jack, watch the heads roll.
We got like every dancers that were all our friends that were all very popular in the clubs to come and participate in this big block party where we just wanted every dancer to shine.
Getting Funky became Kid and Play's first song to crack the top 30 singles charts.
It actually showed Play as like the straight-laced guy and Kid as the wild-out guy, and it was showing the dynamics between both of them as they were performing.
You didn't have a lot of hip-hop artists that wanted to dance, but these guys wanted to dance.
It was about the party aspect. It was about the girls. It was about having a good time. And that was cool because that's who we really were.
And Kid and Play kept the good times going. With their debut album in 1988, fueled by a go-go flavored anthem called Rollin' with Kid and Play.
When I first heard that on the radio, it was like, this is happening.
You know just how it had to be. Just take a look around, boy. Can't you see eyes up on Russia?
You cannot go anywhere, drop that record, and people will not sing that hook.
Roll with Kid and Play. Now everybody sing.
La, oh, la, eh. Hola, hola, eh.
Rollin', 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 Kid and Play now.
You just get this feeling. You just get this energy. It's like, oh, what's that?
So come on, here we go. Pump it up. This is high-powered stuff. Kid and Play can't get enough of that funky go, go, go rhythm. You wanted a dope jam? Well, that's what we're giving. We're headed for fame. Because Kid and Play's driven. Boy, we know game. And large is how we live it. We stay paid. You know the boys have got it made. See, I'm the trend. I'm the fella with the high top fame.
To this day, you go to a party and you put that record on, people are putting their hands in the sky.
Rollin' with Kid and Play shot to number 2 on the charts. Just like that, Kid and Play were a duo in demand. And as they hit the road for their first national tour with Salt and Pepper and Keith Sweat, they began to relish the perks of stardom.
Where are the ladies at? Where the girls at?
Young girls are like crying when they see these guys. It was surreal and unreal at the same time.
Hey, cutie, what's your name? What's your name?
We had never seen anything like that, and, you know, it's exciting.
How come we right in the middle of doing a show, and then you jump off to the side trying to talk to the ladies, like you know how to please a lady. Like you know how to please a lady.
Who doesn't like being liked by girls? You know what I'm saying? We were always kind of looking at each other like, can you believe this? Like, what? Really?
This is a PG show, right? How much fun did I have on the road? Now, if I had the opportunity to be one of these fine Mountain View women, regardless wherever you're from, the first thing I'd do is get down low, something like this.
Play was banging them 5 a night. Okay, his records are incredible. They should have bronzed it. That's all I'm saying.
Those things were part of life, and some of them I'm not so proud of. But at the same time, it's what a kid does in a candy shop when he doesn't know about cavities.
On tour, Kid and Play's fresh style drew the attention of director Reggie Hudlin, who was casting the leads for his feature film debut, a comedy called House Party.
In the back of my mind, I knew I had these guys. When the studio finally liked the movie, wanted to go ahead, they wanted bigger names. I went to New Line and I said, look, how about we do it with Kid and Play instead? Because, you know, they're hot.
Filming for House Party took place at a home in South Central Los Angeles with a cast of young talents that included Tisha Campbell, A.J. Johnson, and Martin Lawrence.
Wow. Yeah, man. You remember that?
That's that door. That's where we, the confrontation with Full Force.
There was just this really crazy togetherness and chemistry that I feel superseded the experience on camera.
It was just like going to a family reunion every single day.
I had so much fun with them and just hanging out. Like I said, lots of girls, lots of ladies, young ladies. they would know what I mean.
I remember Reggie wanting me and Tisha to rehearse being on a bed together. Right. And it was like, so we got on my bed and we're just like,
I know where you're going.
You know what I'm saying? Like we had to kind of practice, like, and I'm like, I'm popping a boner here, man.
I thought that's where you were going.
Play was definitely a prankster. He was definitely a prankster. We just would show up every day and think about what could we do next to have more fun on camera.
One thing that they used to do, and I didn't really like it a lot because they thought it was funny. I don't know if y'all remember.
I remember
they would shake your hand and punch you in the nuts.
Oh,
not
punch you in the private part.
Right. The nuts.
They would just tap you.
It was crazy.
But once the cameras rolled, Kid and Play got serious about their game.
There's a scene where they do a rap battle. And I remember watching both of them, you know, write their lines, change their lines. And then when I watched them shoot it, I was like, wow, like, this is really who they are. This is what they do.
Just tell me how the rhymes and the cuts sound. You won't start feeling the pain to your touchdown. Boy, you're going way out. I'm ready to serve you. If you can stay out past your pop's curfew, look at him. Already it has been. Let Uncle Play say a rhyme that'll tuck your ass in.
Classic. That is classic battle rap style.
Some kind of style. You know what I'm saying? Crazy.
Once again, the boy blows smoke about what he wanna be. But it isn't, it wasn't, and it ain't never gonna be possible. Cause I got lots of pull. And when you rhyme, ooh, there's lots of bull.
Kid could really write. His pen game is really good.
So come with it, boy. Don't even hide your best. Cause Kid spell backwards describes your best. Look around, watch the people clap hands in unity. As the momentum swings from you to me, you issue the challenge.
A kid now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, could watch House Party and be like, word, that's how they did it in the 80s? That's kind of dope.
There's no missing the words that I laid out. You didn't play, you just got played out.
How's this feel? Spooky?
A little bit.
Or at home.
A lot quieter than when we were filming.
Roll with Kid and Play. Now everybody sing.
By the fall of 1990, Hip Hop and House Party had turned Kid and Play into crossover stars. The same week the movie opened, they released their second album, Funhouse, with an irresistible title track.
The flow was so cool. Kid they come from miles around to check out the sounds. Watch the walls come tumbling down.
They come from miles around to check out the sound. Watch the walls come tumbling down. Kid and Play is the perfect team. Now it's time to let off some steam.
It was almost like a play on House Party kind of deal.
You're not on the floor with someone else. Don't blame us, blame yourself.
The formula, you know, of us working and writing and producing, you know, we were clicking.
Funhouse hit #1 on the R&B charts, and by that time, Kid's unique hairstyle was taking on a rep all its own.
White people laughed at me all the time. I got laughed at in airports all the time, but I didn't mind that because I'm like, I'm getting a reaction.
We didn't talk in brands back then. Now everybody talks brands, but that was a brand.
Girls would come up to Kid, can I touch? He would freak out. Like, Kid would turn into a ninja, start doing these ninja moves. You couldn't do anything to that face.
When I first met Kid, I just wanted to touch his hair. And, you know, he grabbed it like oh, I think it was broke my wrist.
Reports of me, you know, protecting, like super protecting and bubble wrapping my high top fade are greatly exaggerated.
Meanwhile, Play was developing his own look through a high-end clothing line called Foreplay.
When Play created Foreplay, he revolutionized the whole game of how we presented style.
He kind of started that like in the early going before everybody started doing it.
The very first official check I got in the business was for a Salt and Pepper design, and I still have a copy of that check somewhere, and I don't even think I even cashed that check.
Hey, yo, Kid, let's do something a little different on this one, man. What you talking about, Herb? I'm thinking about going back. What, back to the old school? Yeah, back to basics. All right.
For a while, it seemed Kid and Play had the golden touch. They scored another top 20 hit with Back to Basics, as their fame from House Party led to commercials, a comic book series, and a Saturday morning cartoon.
I was really proud of them because, you know, other than like Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids and the Jackson 5 and the 70s, they had their own freaking cartoon.
They would come on Saturday morning, so right after I would watch my favorite cartoons, my father's there, you know what I mean?
The movie House Party put us in a whole nother stratosphere. And then with that, you know, a lot of opportunities came our way.
Those opportunities included House Party 2, which hit #1 at the box office. just a few weeks after Kid and Play released their third album, Face the Nation. By that time, Kid was changing up his visual style.
I was getting tired of the high top fade. My gut is what told me to wear it like that in the first place. When my gut told me to change, you got to change because you don't want to get stuck.
And Kid and Play mixed that new look with an update of a funk classic by Brick called Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody.
The music's hype, then if it's alright with you, I wouldn't mind spending the rest of the night with you. No kidding, babe, we can make some noise. You and your girls, and me and my boys, just feeling right a night filled with pleasure. We can take it slow with no pressure. Enough respect, you won't regret. This'll be a night you won't soon forget.
The original record's a jam, and then they put their thing on it.
I could be anywhere, and as soon as the song would come on, everybody would look at me, and I would just be like a machine. I would just start going.
Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody became Kid and Play's second #1 single.
Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody is probably my favorite Kid and Play song. Because I think that song just completely kind of captures who we are. You know, we ain't gonna hurt nobody. We're just dancing. We're just doing what we do.
Kid and Play were living the dream till the clock struck midnight.
Everything that I thought that would make me happy and keep me happy wasn't doing that.
Play definitely started going through all of these life changes. And Kid went to LA and never came back.
We start off as though you're doing the Charleston facing each other.
And then at some point, you hook feet together and you flip around. Like, you got to do that move.
You're making sure those 2 feet miss without looking back. You're cheating if you're looking back.
No,
so you got to be on point. And then it's the point where your 2 hands are together.
No,
and you're...
No, you don't. We don't hold hands. We never held hands. We don't hold hands.
We don't hold hands?
No, we don't know. No, you're holding my hand now, which is kind of creeping me out. But no.
By the early 1990s, Kid and Play were putting their stamp on popular culture through music, TV, and film. But despite a #1 hit, their third album failed to crack the top 20 as the rise of gangsta rap began to cast some shade on their feel-good sound.
Gangsta was really, really big back then, and Kid and Play were kind of almost G-rated.
There was a lot of segments of the hip-hop community that was looking at us like we were corny. Like we're corny and we're old and y'all ain't hard enough.
If you didn't go to jail or wasn't coming from jail or about to go to jail and you weren't calling a woman a bitch, because you just wasn't happening.
Kid and Play could still light up the screen, following House Party 2 with a comedy called Class Act. But their private lives were moving in opposite directions as Kid continued to live up to his name.
I smoke weed. That's what I do. I'm a weed aficionado, okay? That's what I smoke, all right? Look, I hang with Bill Maher, okay? Enough said.
There certainly was no one in my long era of, shall we say, drinking and having fun in this town of Los Angeles who I did that more with than Chris Reed. I mean, we were an unholy terror from the mid-90s for at least 10 years.
I would drink, Kid would drink. A lot of these parties, sometimes they're open bars, so it's like, okay, well, shoot. Shot, give me a shot. And when you start to get irresponsible and maybe miss things or be late to things and start getting that type of thing happening, then it's like, all right, well, what are you doing?
By the mid-90s, Kid had also become a parent. Sort of.
I'd gotten to the age of 30 with no children. And then in a year and a half, I had 3. Bam, bam, bam. So that was wild.
When I was really small, whenever my dad came and visited me, I would go and rush under the bed, unless he had, like, toys for me. Then I'd come out, grab the toys, and then go back under the bed. It's really awkward, but I think I was somewhere comfortable with my mom that whenever he came to visit, you know, it was, like, I think it was a little awkward for me.
Like, great mothers, just did a great job. And particularly at the beginning, when I was not being a good dude.
And while Kid was playing the field, Play was burning out.
And like when that beeper would go off or the phone would ring and, hey, you guys got a show to do here, or this thing is on the table for y'all here, you know, and I cringed. I wasn't with it. So I felt it was time to settle down.
So in 1993, Chris Martin married actress Sherry Headley. They had a child together, but divorced after 2 years.
Times where I'd go away on a trip and I'd come back, and in my head, it's like, I'm gonna see her and I'm gonna grab her and give her a big hug. I do the opposite. You know, it was abandonment, but it was emotional abandonment.
I knew that was gonna go bad, because during the courtship and the relationship part of it, before they got married, it was going bad.
As I explained to her, trying to save the marriage is that I love, but I don't know how to love. All I've known is one, or at the best, two-nighters. I don't know how to sustain it or to work on it.
Kid and Play never officially broke up, but by the late 90s, they'd stopped performing together, and their recording career was over.
We were up, and down. I'm like, whoa, what happened?
I was just feeling very empty. It was becoming tormenting because everything that I thought that would make me happy and keep me happy wasn't doing that.
I was kind of spiraling on my own. And, you know, for the first time, probably the first time ever since we've been friends, we weren't there for each other.
This is my old spot. This is Casa de Kid. Looks like they've done some improvements. We didn't have.
How come your spot has been upgraded and mine's has been demoted? What's that all about?
2015. 2 decades after calling it quits, Kid and Play can still go home again.
I don't know.
Kid and Play means friendship. You know, it means loyalty, stand down, having each other's back.
Cool.
But these days, the two friends from Queens inhabit very different worlds. Kid has settled in Los Angeles, reinventing himself as a stand-up comic, and has composed theme music for the TV shows Martin and Real Time with Bill Maher.
There's nobody like Chris. Nobody who's funny in the way he is. I mean, I was the one who suggested he also start his career as a stand-up comic.
Well, I always thought he was funny, and when we hang out, he's always joking and laughing. So for him to transition to comedy, to come from rap, I wanted to be a rapper.
And in recent years, Kid says, he's become a more responsible parent for his children.
I can remember us, you know, going through some bitter court battles and whatnot, and they were tough on me, as they should have been. You know what I mean? Because they're like, dude, you know, come on, man, get it together. Grow up. Kid.
There's no bitterness, and it's always like we come first. I think as long as we're happy, you know, he's happy.
But there's been a downside as Kid continues to battle with alcohol dependence.
I caught a DUI a few years back, and I'm glad I got it for the simple fact that that was a kind of a defining moment in terms of how I was going to move forward.
I think he's a little more aware now. I think he realizes that he got a lot to live for and he don't want to mess up his rep, and he got a lot going on.
What was really disheartening, and I had nobody to blame but myself, was that, you know, my children were at the age where, you know, they weren't little anymore. So, you know, I had to, you know, kind of explain that I'd made a serious error in judgment, but don't mean you can't turn it around. Don't mean you can't, you know, make your family and your people proud of you.
Chris Play Martin lives a very different life. He's become a devout Christian. A conversion, he says, was inspired by his father, who took a similar path while in prison for bank robbery.
He went back to school and graduated with crazy degrees, and also graduated from Union Theological Seminary Institute. You know, he's a real deal.
I do remember when my father became, you know, a born-again Christian, and it really affected me big because, like I said, I was ready to go out and party and have, you know, experience the things that he did. But I can't honestly say that he did his job in trying to keep me on the right road.
Chris Martin now teaches at Florida A&M University and runs a hip-hop website called Brand News.
I remember when Play called me saying, you know, I'm really feeling like I want to go back and teach. And I said, oh my gosh, there's not going to be a better teacher because look at what you're bringing. You're bringing the experience to go back and be able to give that experience firsthand. It's priceless.
His father turning his life around, you know, obviously gave him a different, you know, template. You know, like, I'm not this dude no more. You know, I'm this dude.
But Kid and Play's shared legacy lives on. And in recent years, they've resumed performing together.
When Kid and I decided to reunite, so to speak, because people was like, you know, why did y'all break up? And I'm like, we didn't break up, we grew up.
You know, we were starting to get cool again. You know what I mean? Like, if enough time goes by, you know, first you're great, then you're whack. And if you stand still, you get cool again.
We're getting funky. When you look at Kid and Play, you look at two guys who clearly have a great time together. They look like the best buddies that they are.
At the end of the day, I'm always going to be proud to say I know Kid and Play. Like, I know these genuine, great people.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't somebody that did a casting call and said, okay, let's put these two guys together. It's very organic. It's just us being us.
We trust in that bond. We trust in that process. And when people say, yo, man, we tight like Kid and Play, that tells you all you need to know.
Man, I'm gonna have fun.